What if tonight, yes, before the day ends, you could quietly shift your entire world without anyone even noticing? What if everything you've been seeking is waiting, not tomorrow, not next month, but now, hidden behind one mental act that you overlooked your whole life? You are not here by accident. You were meant to hear this before tonight, because this will change everything if you let it. There was a time I stood before a mirror, not admiring my reflection, but questioning everything I believed was real. I had tried affirmations. I had listened to endless promises of change, but nothing ever lasted. Then, late one evening, I stopped chasing results and began testing a truth so simple it shocked me. I imagined something small, insignificant to the world, but deeply meaningful to me. A letter in the mail from someone I hadn't heard from in years. I assumed the feeling of having received it. I saw it, I felt the paper, I felt the warmth it brought, and then I let it go. 2 days later, the letter arrived, handwritten, same handwriting, no explanation. That moment didn't just confirm a technique, it changed everything. From that day forward, I never doubted again that imagination creates reality. And what I'm about to teach you now, before this night ends, will begin the same transformation in you. Your life is the mirror of your inner world. You are always manifesting, whether consciously or not. By default, most create their tomorrows based on what they felt today. To change tomorrow, shift your internal assumptions now. Don't ask the world to change. Ask yourself what belief you're harboring that caused it. The moment you feel something is true, you give it life. Feeling is not passive, it's creative. You don't need long rituals. Just 10 focused seconds of assumed reality are more powerful than hours of empty affirmations. Close your eyes tonight and feel yourself already being the person you wish to become. What are you whispering to yourself all day? That you're not enough? That it's too late? These inner dialogues are spells. Change them tonight. Speak as the version of yourself who has already received the miracle. Your world will begin to echo back that tone. Stop asking how it will happen. That question belongs to the part of you that still doubts. Instead, assume it's already done. Live mentally in the result and let the bridge of incidents form beneath your feet. Your job is not to build the path. It's to stand in the destination. You are not manifesting money, love, or success. You are manifesting yourself having it. So if your self-concept is still one of lack or rejection, the outer world will keep returning that message. Upgrade your self-image tonight, and you'll upgrade your results tomorrow. Don't wait for something huge to test this. Try something small tonight. Visualize a phone call, a compliment, a red feather, a random smile. When you see it come alive, you have proven to yourself that the principle works. And when the principle is real, everything becomes possible. Most fail not because they doubt the method, but because they quit too early. Your imagination is a garden. What you plant tonight may not show tomorrow, but it will come. Keep watering your assumed reality, no matter what the senses tell you. Night is not just for sleep. Night is the sacred time when the conscious mind is quiet and the subconscious is listening. As you lay in bed tonight, don't replay your problems. Replay your wish fulfilled. Fall asleep in the state of the answer, and you will wake into a world that begins bending toward it. Your life is not a product of circumstances. It is a product of consciousness. What you see, touch, taste, and experience. This entire tapestry of outer events is a mirror held up to your inner world. You are always manifesting something, not only when you deliberately sit down and visualize or recite affirmations, but in every waking moment of thought and feeling. The secret, therefore, is not learning how to start manifesting. It is learning to recognize what you've already been manifesting unconsciously. Every thought clothed in emotion carries within it the seed of tomorrow. You may believe your life is stagnant or accidental, But there are no accidents in consciousness. You're not a victim of a chaotic universe. You are the author of a precisely responsive one. You create continuously, either by design or by default. Every assumption that you have accepted as true about yourself, about others, about the world, has become a mold that reality must conform to. The law cannot discriminate. It does not ask if the assumption is positive or negative, helpful or harmful. It only asks, is it real to you? Therein lies the responsibility and the power. Because if you are always manifesting something, then the key to transformation is in your awareness of what state you're dwelling in. States are psychological territories. To feel unwanted is a state. To feel chosen is a state. To feel rich or poor, healthy or ill, loved or abandoned, all of these are states. And the outer world does not change until the inner state changes. You are not instructed to fix the external, but to fix your internal dwelling. You might ask, how can I tell what I've been manifesting unconsciously? The answer is simple. Look around you. Your current circumstances are the fossilized remains of your past assumptions. If your relationships are strained, it may be that you've assumed you're unworthy or unlovable. If money is scarce, it could be that deep within you have accepted lack as your identity. These assumptions are invisible to the eye, but loud in their expression through reality. The world is not separate from you. It is you projected. And so, to change anything, one must stop identifying with what appears to be true and begin to identify with what is desired to be true. The shift from passive existence to conscious creation begins the moment you withdraw your attention from appearances and place it deliberately upon the unseen. When you no longer argue with the facts, but rest in the vision, the creative process begins. But the moment you accept the idea that you are always manifesting something, you can never go back to believing in chance. It becomes impossible to blame others, to resent the past, or to wait for external salvation. You know that your future is held within your present state, and that whatever you persist in assuming, you will inevitably express. It may take time to appear. There may be bridges of incidents to traverse, but once a state is occupied persistently, it will outpicture itself. This is not about effort. You are not asked to struggle or to wrestle with your imagination. You are asked only to recognize that your every thought and feeling, when accepted as real, is planting a seed in the field of the subconscious. That seed does not care if it is a weed or a rose. It grows what is planted. So the question becomes, what are you planting? Many look at the world and say, I did not choose this. But they misunderstand the nature of choice. To accept an idea emotionally, to dwell on it repeatedly, to identify with it even in silence, that is choice. It is subtle, it is unconscious, but it is powerful. Most people are planting without knowing it, and then harvesting results they do not remember sowing. The invitation then is not to judge the harvest, but to become more attentive to the seed. Begin this moment to observe yourself. What do you imagine when no one is watching? What feeling do you fall asleep in? What assumptions do you carry into every room? These are not idle things. These are the true architects of experience. The great shift begins when you no longer ask, why is this happening to me? And instead ask, what have I accepted as true? That question, simple as it may sound, is the doorway to dominion. Because once you uncover the assumption, you can replace it. You can rise into a new state. You can assume a new identity, not because the world invites you to, but because you dare to. And when you do, reality, slowly at first, then faster, will bend to that new inner truth. Your life will begin to echo the tone of the new assumption. People will behave differently. Events will line up. Doors will open where once there were walls. All because you accepted that you are always manifesting. And finally, you chose to do so consciously. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is not a metaphor. It is not a poetic expression, nor is it a vague encouragement to feel good. It is the single, most direct instruction to bring forth your desires from the unseen into the seen. For what you feel with conviction, with vividness, and with full acceptance as already true, that is the blueprint from which reality is compelled to shape itself. It is not your thoughts alone that create, but your felt identity. You become what you feel yourself to be. Every emotion is an announcement to the subconscious mind. The subconscious does not reason. It does not weigh options or debate possibilities. It receives feelings as commands. When you enter into the state of the wish fulfilled, when you saturate your consciousness in the assumption that your desire is now reality, you activate a principle far greater than logic. You impress upon the formless substance of being a pattern so complete that it must outpicture itself through a sequence of events called life. You may ask, but how do I feel something that I have never experienced? The answer lies in imagination. Imagination is the workshop of the infinite. It is through imagination that you can call into the present what the senses deny. When you deliberately enter the scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled, when you smell the air, hear the sounds, walk the rooms of your imagined world, you awaken the emotional tone that makes it real to you. And the moment it is real to you, the world begins to bend toward that vibration. Many approach manifestation like an observer hoping for proof. They say, I will believe it when I see it, but the law is reversed. You will see it only when you believe it, more precisely, only when you feel it. Belief without feeling is hollow. Feeling without belief is unstable. But when you unite the two and move into the emotional certainty that it is already done, creation is guaranteed. The seed has been planted. This feeling is not mere enthusiasm. It is not hype or excitement. It is conviction. A stillness within you that accepts the new reality without doubt, without question, without effort. It is the inner knowing that needs no proof because it already sees. The moment you claim your desire as yours in feeling, your world, though it may appear unchanged for a while, has already shifted. What was once distant is now drawing near. You have turned the invisible wheel. The law does not ask you to know how it will happen. It does not require that you rearrange the pieces of the external world. All that is required is your full inner acceptance of the reality you wish to experience. That acceptance is expressed through feeling. It is a silent, inward yes to what you desire. It is as though you have received the thing already and are now living from the joy, the peace, the gratitude that it brings. That is what is meant by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you go to sleep tonight, do not drift off in the memory of what was. That is to carry the past into the future. Instead, deliberately enter the scene of your fulfilled desire. Lay your body down in the bed, but lay your mind in the mansion of your dream. Let the feeling of it saturate you. Feel the softness of success, the warmth of love, the serenity of fulfillment. Let your emotions rehearse what your body has not yet touched. And know this, the outer world always catches up. It is delayed, yes, but not disconnected. There is a time lag between the imaginal act and its physical counterpart, but that lag is not a sign of failure. It is the process of form taking shape. The world must adjust. People, places, and events must realign themselves to conform to the vibration you have established within. There is no need to repeat your desire endlessly. You do not need to beg or plead with the universe. One assumption, deeply felt, is more powerful than 100 requests made with doubt. It is not repetition that creates. It is conviction. It is the confident dwelling in a new inner reality that transforms your life from within. You may find the feeling hard to access at first. That is natural. For years you may have identified with a different state, with lack, rejection, or failure. But the mind is plastic. It can be molded. And the more you return to the feeling of your fulfilled desire, the easier it becomes. Eventually, it will feel more natural to dwell in your new reality than in the old. And when that happens, manifestation is not far behind. Train yourself in this practice. Make it a ritual. Upon waking and before sleep, enter the state, not to get something, but to become it. Because once you become it in feeling, the rest is inevitable. The world is a mirror. It reflects not what you want, but what you are in feeling. Feel it real, and you will make it real. That is the promise. And it is always kept. Your inner conversations are not casual or harmless. They are not simply fleeting thoughts that pass without consequence. They are the script of your life. What you whisper to yourself silently, repeatedly, emotionally, that is what becomes your outer experience. The world you live in is none other than your internal dialogue made visible. If your life feels like a loop of unwanted situations, it is because your self-talk has remained unchanged. To alter the world, you must alter the tone, content, and character of what you say inwardly to yourself. You are not reacting to the world. You are reacting to your concept of self. And that self-concept is built from your inner speech. Every word that flows through your mind, especially when accompanied by emotion, shapes the atmosphere of your life. And because your imagination is the womb of creation, whatever lies long enough in that sacred space must eventually take form. If you speak defeat, you will meet circumstances that match it. If you speak power, you will find opportunities rising in agreement. This is not about repeating positive phrases like a robot. It is about becoming acutely aware of how you habitually talk to yourself and choosing to inhabit the emotional essence of a new story. You might say on the surface, I believe I am successful, but underneath you may still be murmuring, I'm not good enough, or I'll always struggle. These quiet mutterings, even if unspoken aloud, are received by the subconscious as true declarations. The subconscious hears what the conscious mind feels, not merely what it says. Change, then, must begin with new conversations, not simply changing the words, but changing the identity behind the words. Instead of saying, I want to be wealthy, you must inwardly declare, I am the kind of person who always thrives. Instead of saying, I hope they love me, you must inwardly affirm, I am already adored. Not as a future goal, but as a present reality, because your inner conversations are not about what you want. They reveal what you assume you already are. The reason many struggle with outer change is because they never shift the script running in their mind. They try to change jobs, change partners, change cities, but carry the same self-defeating conversations into every new environment. So nothing truly changes. For change to be genuine, it must occur inwardly first. The moment you stop mentally rehearsing your old life and begin mentally inhabiting your new one, the world must shift to match it. Reality listens. It eavesdrops on your soul. It listens to what you consistently assume in secret. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself in moments of silence. When you're walking alone, lying in bed, or waiting in line. Do you scold yourself? Do you doubt your worth? Do you imagine being rejected, ridiculed, ignored? These inner images and dialogues are not fantasies. They are orders sent to the universe. And the universe, being obedient to the nature of your assumption, will respond in kind. You are not at the mercy of these inner voices. You can choose to rewrite them. In fact, you must. Begin to converse with yourself as if your desire has already been fulfilled. Speak within from the place of already being what you want to be. Imagine a friend asking, how did it happen? And you joyfully telling the story of success. Play it in your mind over and over until it becomes more familiar than the old complaints. In doing this, you are not lying to yourself. You are telling the deeper truth. Because the truest version of you is not the one shaped by fear, trauma, or failure. It is the version created in the image of your highest self. And that self only awakens when you speak its language. Your current results are not a punishment. They are feedback. They are telling you which script you've been running. And if the story no longer serves you, you are free to stop rehearsing it. Change the script and the play must change. Change the actor's lines and the scene will evolve. It is not a matter of time. It is a matter of repetition and belief. Repeat new inner conversations not to convince the world, but to convince yourself. Even if nothing outside has changed yet, the moment your inner conversations change, you have altered the seed. And no seed planted in new soil with new expectations can remain unchanged. Life must now respond in a new way. So tonight, as you lay in bed, revise your dialogue. Listen to yourself and correct every whisper of doubt. Replace it with confidence. Replace worry with certainty. Replace criticism with compassion. Don't wait until morning. begin before the night ends. For what you tell yourself now is already shaping what tomorrow brings. The world is listening to you, and it listens to what you whisper when you think no one is listening at all. Live in the end. Not in the middle, not in the beginning, not even in the hope of the thing desired. Live as though what you seek is already a fact of being. This is not about pretending, and it is not about wishing. It is about assuming with such conviction that your mind ceases to ask when or how, because the question becomes irrelevant once you are dwelling in the result. To live in the end means to assume the identity, the emotion, and the outcome of your desire as though it were already true. And from that inner position, the bridge of incidents begins to unfold beneath your feet. You are not asked to manipulate circumstances. You are not instructed to force or beg or chase. What you are asked to do is enter into the state that implies the wish fulfilled and to remain there, not as a visitor, but as a resident. Because every state is a dwelling place, and you can only receive from the world what belongs to the state you occupy. If you live in the middle, if you imagine obstacles, timelines, delays, or processes, you are not yet in the end. You are still attempting to earn the fulfillment rather than rest in it. To live in the end is to take the emotional position of already having, not trying to get. And this subtle shift changes everything. You are no longer searching, you are remembering. You are no longer asking, you are declaring. You are no longer trying to change the world, you are changing your identity, and the world reflects back the image you hold of yourself. This is why so many fail without realizing they are doing everything right on the surface. They visualize, they affirm, they read and listen and speak, but their internal dwelling remains in the state of wanting. And wanting is not having. Wanting declares absence. Wanting imagines separation. To want is to say, I am not, and to live in the end is to say, I am. There is a great divide between the two, and only you can make the crossing. Imagination is the vehicle, feeling is the power, and the end is the destination. These three must harmonize. When you close your eyes and imagine your desire fulfilled, ask yourself, am I seeing this as something I hope for, or am I entering it as a fact? Is this a vision I admire from afar, or a home I inhabit now in thought and feeling? Because what you accept as true emotionally becomes your lived experience physically. Do not concern yourself with time. Time is the servant of imagination, not his master. When you live in the end, you collapse time because the mind does not distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically present. Your subconscious does not understand the difference between a memory and a current event if both are emotionally charged. So if you enter the scene of your fulfilled desire and charge it with feeling, your subconscious accepts it as true, and the machinery of life is set in motion. Do not concern yourself with the how. The how is not your domain. The mind that asks how will it come is still standing outside the result. But when you live in the end, you surrender the need to manage the path. You allow the unseen to orchestrate the events, conversations, connections, and alignments necessary to make it appear. These are the bridges of incident. The seemingly random but perfectly timed events that guide you to the physical manifestation of what you have already accepted internally. You may not recognize the bridge when it begins to form. In fact, the first step may appear to contradict your desire. But remember, you have already moved in consciousness. The outer world is simply catching up. Remain loyal to the end, not to the echoes of the past. Do not be shaken by appearances. You are no longer reacting to what is. You are responding from what already is in imagination. Imagine yourself already there, not as a concept, but as a reality. Feel the air, see the light, hear the sounds. Walk through the scene as though you belong to it, because you do. And the more real it becomes within, the more compelled reality is to mirror it without. The world must respond. It has no choice. It is only reflecting back your dominant inner state. If you continue to entertain the middle, the doubts, the details, the waiting, you will remain suspended in possibility but never enter fulfillment. But if you dare to claim the end and persist in it, no matter what your senses report, you will walk into a future that feels like destiny but was actually self-created. Because destiny is simply imagination sustained. So tonight, do not drift into sleep rehearsing the day's problems. Enter the end, assume the feeling, walk through the door, sit in the chair, hold the evidence, and drift into sleep not as who you were, but as who you now are. The end is not a place you arrive at. It is a place you begin from. You do not manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. You cannot rise higher than the concept you hold of yourself, for life will never outpicture an identity you secretly deny. It is not your desires that shape your life. It is your self-image. Every experience, every relationship, every result you call life is nothing more than your self-concept made visible. And so, when you seek to change your world, do not begin with the world. Begin with you. If you say you want wealth, but you still see yourself as one who struggles, you will continue to live out that struggle, no matter how many affirmations you repeat. If you long for love, but inwardly feel unworthy or abandoned, the partners you attract will only echo that belief. This is not cruelty. This is not fate. It is law. The world responds not to your words, but to your assumptions. And the most deeply rooted assumption of all is the one you hold about yourself. What you believe about you is the seed from which all else grows. You may try to force change in your environment, in your habits, or in other people, but if your concept of self remains low, incomplete, or broken, everything you manifest will be shaped by the mold of that inner image. You cannot fake your way into a better life while secretly identifying as a failure. You cannot pretend to be powerful while clinging to the identity of the powerless. Consciousness cannot be deceived because it creates from what is believed. So how do you change your self-concept? You begin by observing the story you've been telling about yourself. Not the story you tell others, but the one you whisper in silence. The story that plays when you're alone. The narrative that arises when something goes wrong. That story is the foundation of your self-concept. And it is that story which must be rewritten if your life is to become something new. You do not need to fix yourself. You need only to re-identify. Begin to see yourself as already being the version you desire to become, not in the distant future, but now. Think from that place, not toward it. Feel from that identity, not for it. When you do, you change the soil in which the seeds of imagination grow. And from new soil, new life must arise. Speak of yourself as the one who already has. See yourself in possession of the qualities you thought were once out of reach. Act, not to impress others, but because your inner reality has shifted. You are no longer doing these things to get the desire. You are doing them because you now believe this is who you are. It is not performance, it is being. The world will begin to test your new self-concept. It will offer you echoes of the old, temptations to return to doubt, situations that ask you to prove who you are. But these are not setbacks. They are invitations to remain faithful to the new image. When you persist in the identity of the fulfilled version of yourself, the outer world eventually yields. It must. The mirror cannot reflect something that is no longer standing before it. Your new self-concept must be rehearsed, not once, but constantly. Just as the old image was built from years of repetition, the new one must be constructed by deliberate focus. Close your eyes and dwell in the state of already being. Not doing, being. Imagine the ease, the certainty, the freedom of this new you. Let that become your natural place of rest. Let it become familiar. For what becomes familiar becomes normal. And what becomes normal becomes real. Remember, no change is permanent until it changes you. Outer shifts without inner transformation are temporary. But when your self-concept evolves, the world must recalibrate to reflect it. And so tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself, not what do I want, but who am I now? Answer that question not with doubt, but with imagination. Assume the identity of the one who already lives the life you long for, and fall asleep in that knowing. The world has no choice but to follow the script written by yourself in Imagine. Whether you like it or not, you are always performing the role your mind has assigned to you. The only question is, do you want to keep playing the same character? Or will you finally rewrite the part? To change your life, you must first change your concept of self. Nothing else is required. Once you know who you truly are, everything else falls into place. You are not waiting for the world to recognize you. You are waiting for you to recognize yourself. And once you do, the world will follow. Begin with something small. That is the key most overlooked. You do not need to move a mountain to prove this law to yourself. You only need to move a pebble. The law responds to imagination, not scale. Whether you imagine a penny or a palace, the same principle applies. But when you start small, when you give yourself the space to feel it real without resistance, you build confidence. And confidence in this law is the key to using it deliberately and with power. Many wish to manifest great things. They seek transformations that would dazzle the world, wealth, love, healing, freedom. But inside they doubt. They say they believe, but beneath the surface they question, can this really work for me? That question is a silent poison to faith. It renders the act of imagining powerless because it attaches the energy of disbelief to every scene. This is why beginning with small tests is not a trick. It is wisdom. Choose something today. Something light, something that carries no heavy emotion, no desperate urgency. Imagine receiving a compliment from a stranger. Imagine someone bringing you your favorite fruit. Imagine seeing a blue feather, or finding a coin, or hearing a specific name. Anything at all, so long as it is simple and light upon the heart. Then go into imagination, not with hope, not with effort, but with quiet certainty into the scene. Feel the ease of the moment. Make it real in the theater of the mind. You will be tempted to check, to look for results. Don't. That is the habit of the senses. The eyes always want to see proof, but this is a spiritual act and it requires inward vision. Once the scene is impressed, release it. Do not dig up the sea to see if it is growing. Leave it. Trust the unseen. Then, when the thing appears, often in the most unexpected way, you will know. You will have felt its arrival before it came. That moment is more than satisfaction. It is revelation. What you prove to yourself in that moment is not just that imagination works. You prove that you are the operant power, that you are not subject to the world, but source of it. And once you taste that power, you will never again approach life as a victim. You will no longer beg, chase, or plead. You will create. Because now you have felt what it means to imagine with conviction and see the world conform. These small experiments are not small in effect. They are building blocks of belief. With each success, your inner certainty grows. You begin to trust the unseen more than the seen. You begin to rely on imagination more than information. You begin to dwell in the invisible more comfortably than the visible. And from this place, the larger things, the desires that once seemed far off, become approachable, believable, and finally natural. The mistake most make is trying to leap from doubt into certainty without building the bridge. But the bridge is made of experience. Every time you deliberately imagine and receive, you lay another stone. You are creating a mental structure strong enough to carry the weight of your greatest dreams. And when that structure is complete, no desire will feel too large, no goal will feel beyond reach. You will know that whatever you can feel as true, you can bring into form. You are not practicing imagination just to entertain the mind. You are awakening your true identity. You are training yourself to move in consciousness, to direct your attention and to sustain the feeling of the wish fulfilled. These are the true muscles of manifestation. And like any muscle, they grow through use. Small tests are the repetitions that build strength. And strength of spirit is what bends the world. Do not dismiss the value of your first success. Cherish it. Study it. Remember the feeling. That feeling is the blueprint. Use it again and again. And with each repetition, your power grows. You will go from manifesting signs to shaping seasons, from imagining feathers to embodying fortune, from testing the law to becoming the law in action. And when others ask how, you will not need to convince them. Your life will be the evidence. Your peace, your joy, your certainty, these will speak louder than words. Because you began with something small, and through it, you touched something infinite. Persistence is the secret few are willing to apply, not because it is difficult, but because it demands a steadiness of faith in an invisible truth. Most people imagine something once or twice, and when nothing appears immediately, they declare it doesn't work. But they misunderstand the nature of creation. They mistake the time lag between seed and harvest as a sign of failure, not realizing that every desire has its own appointed hour. You are not planting in empty soil, you are planting in consciousness. And consciousness, being eternal, responds not to bursts of enthusiasm, but to sustained assumption. The great difference between those who manifest occasionally and those who manifest consistently lies in one word: persistence. Persistence is not effort. It is not strain. It is quiet loyalty to a state regardless of evidence. It is holding fast to the assumption that what you desire already exists, even when everything around you argues otherwise. This is the truest form of faith, to remain faithful to the unseen because you know it must appear. Your senses will attempt to contradict your assumption. The world will appear unchanged. People will behave as they always have. Circumstances may seem even worse than before. But this is not the moment to retreat. This is the moment to remain, to stand in the assumption, to persist in the inner reality until the outer must submit to it. You may find that when you begin to assume your wish fulfilled, all kinds of opposition arise, within and without. Old doubts return, memories resurface, people question you. That is because the old state is being dislodged. It is being stripped of power. It resists only because it senses its own end. Do not be discouraged by this. Rejoice in it. It means your new state is taking root. Continue dwelling there, and the storm will pass. Persistence is the art of mental fidelity. It is not just imagining once, but imagining again and again, until it feels more natural than the facts. It is rehearsing the reality you choose until it becomes automatic, until it becomes your dwelling place, not your destination. You're not visiting a better life. You are inhabiting it now. That is the difference between wishing and creating. The world is not instant clay to be molded the moment you think a new thought. It is more like a shadow, slow to catch up, but perfectly obedient. When you change the object that casts the shadow must eventually adjust. There is no need to shout at it, no need to chase it. Just remain consistent with the new form, and the old projection will fade. Every desire you hold has already been created in the invisible. Your assumption brings it into visibility. But to maintain that assumption, especially when reality disagrees, is the discipline. That is where many turn back. They think the law is broken. But it is not the law that breaks. It is the persistence that falters. Imagine a man digging for water. He has been told there is a spring beneath his land. He digs a foot, sees no water, and stops. He tries again the next day, another foot down, still nothing. Doubt sets in. He questions the promise. After several attempts, he gives up. Yet had he persisted a few feet further, the water would have gushed forth. So it is with imagination. The spring is real, but only those who persist in the unseen will touch it. There is no punishment for stopping, but there is no harvest either. Persistence is the only price you pay, and it is paid, not in toil, but in trust. It is paid by returning to the inner state when distractions pull you out, by choosing once again to dwell in the end, even when you wake up in the middle, by assuming again and again and again, until it becomes the only version of reality that feels true. This is not repetition for its own sake. It is re-identification. You are not just repeating a scene. You are becoming the person who lives it. And once you have become it in consciousness, the world must mirror that identity. It may come through means you did not expect. It may arrive on paths you did not plan, but arrive it must, because the persistent assumption always wins. You're not trying to convince the world, you're only convincing yourself. And once that inner conviction is stable, the outer cannot resist it. The inner is the cause, the outer the effect. So do not look outward for confirmation, look inward for stability. That is where the change occurs. Persistence is the difference between imagining for amusement and imagining for transformation, between hope and creation, between a dream deferred and a destiny fulfilled. Stay loyal to your vision and let nothing shake it. No matter what appears, remain. That is all you are ever asked to do. Night is not just the end of the day, it is the beginning of the invisible process through which tomorrow is shaped. It is the sacred hour where consciousness, untethered from the noise of the outer world, becomes most impressionable. Sleep is not escape, it is not surrender to darkness. It is the gateway through which your assumptions are whispered into the subconscious, where they germinate and bloom into the experiences of waking life. What you carry into sleep, you carry into creation. Most people use this precious window to replay their defeats, to relive arguments, to worry about bills, or to revisit fears. They unknowingly fertilize the soil of the subconscious with thoughts of lack, pain, and unfulfilled longing. And then they awaken to a world that continues the same narrative. They ask, why won't my life change? But they never realize that the drama was rehearsed nightly in the theater of the mind. The mind does not sleep, it listens. And in sleep it listens most intently. The key is to enter that silent, impressional state not with the residue of the day, but with the blueprint of the life you wish to live. You must not fall asleep as the one who is still searching, still hoping, still doubting. You must fall asleep in the state of already being. Not the one who will be, but the one who already is. You assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and let that feeling escort you into slumber. That is when the magic happens. That is when the command is sealed. The last thought you entertain, the final emotion you embody before sleep, acts as the seed cast into the soil of the subconscious. And what is planted there, if not uprooted by opposing thoughts the next day, will surely sprout. Sleep then becomes your greatest ally. Because you are not distracted, you are not performing for anyone, you are not battling the logic of the senses, you are alone with the infinite, whispering the truth of a future only you can see. It is not necessary to visualize the entire scene with great detail. What matters most is the feeling. If the image is dim but the feeling is alive, it is enough. It is better to feel vividly than to see clearly. Perhaps you cannot imagine the entire home, but you can feel the warmth of being safe. Perhaps you cannot picture your lover's face, but you can feel the joy of being desired. That feeling, once real to you, becomes the mold from which the world takes shape. As you lie down, let the weight of the day slip away. Withdraw your attention from the noise of the outer world. Do not review what went wrong. Do not rehearse complaints. Instead, gently, without strain, enter the state of your fulfilled desire. Imagine how it would feel to have already arrived. Rest in that satisfaction. Smile inwardly and drift into sleep wearing that inner garment. You do not need to tell anyone. You do not need to act out anything externally the next day. You only need to persist in that nightly act of creation. Each night becomes a step closer. Each sleep a ritual of rebirth. You will not know the exact hour it arrives. You may even forget what you imagine. But suddenly the world will shift and what once was fantasy will stand before you as fact. This is not superstition, it is law. The subconscious, once impressed, must express. But it does not respond to vague longing, it responds to assumed reality. When you sleep in the feeling of being wealthy, you are not waiting for wealth, you are being it. When you sleep in the feeling of being loved, you are not hoping to be chosen, you are the chosen. The state must precede the appearance. Many seek signs during the day, but the real work is done at night. That is where you plant. Day is the harvest of the night before. The conditions of today were born in the beliefs you carried into yesterday's sleep. So if you desire to transform your life, do not start in the morning. Start before you close your eyes tonight. Choose the most desirable scene, not a desperate craving, but a gentle assumption of fulfillment. Make it sweet, make it real, make it familiar, and let your body drift into sleep while your mind remains gently anchored in the new identity. The first few nights may feel uncertain, the mind may wander, but each repetition strengthens the connection. Each night is another thread in the tapestry of a new destiny. What you assume as true in that sacred borderland between waking and sleeping will determine the shape of your days to come. So honor the night. Use it wisely. Let it become your hidden workshop, your private altar, your sacred laboratory of manifestation. For the world you wake into is nothing more than the echo of what you accepted in silence. And so I say to you, your world is not waiting to change. It is waiting on you to awaken. The moment you accept that your imagination is not a dreamer but the very architect of reality, you move from the shadows into dominion. All that you have heard is not theory, it is truth, clothed in simplicity. You are always manifesting something. Whether you are aware of it or not, every assumption, every feeling, every inner conversation is shaping the texture of your life. This is not about force. It is about alignment, about turning your attention inward and dwelling in the feeling of already having what you desire, because it is the feeling that gives it life. Thought alone is not enough. Words alone are not enough, but the feeling, quiet, convincing, real, that is the language of creation. When you feel it, you impress it. And what is impressed upon the subconscious must be expressed by the outer world. Your inner conversations are sacred. They are not idle talk. They are seeds, and each one is growing into experience. If you want to know what you've been saying to yourself in silence, look at your life. And if you don't like what you see, do not weep over the harvest. Change the seed. Speak from the version of yourself who already has the answer. Enter the assumption and remain there. Live in the end. Not as someone trying to get, but as someone who already is. All creation begins with self-concept. You cannot outgrow the image you hold of yourself. If you see yourself as unworthy, all your efforts will reflect that root. But when you rise in imagination and claim a new identity, the world is compelled to follow. For the world is only a mirror, and it reflects not what you desire, but who you believe yourself to be. Do not wait for life to prove itself to you. Prove it to yourself through small demonstrations. Take something light and deliberately assume its presence. Do not rush it. Do not chase it. Let the scene unfold in the silence of your mind, and it will appear before you in the silence of the world. These small wins are not small. They are the cracks in the wall of doubt. And once they appear, the wall begins to crumble. And in the end, it is persistence that separates the hopeful from the powerful. Not because the law favors some and rejects others, but because most walk away before the fruit ripens. Stay faithful. Do not be moved by what seems unchanged. Do not let the senses convince you otherwise. What you assume and persist in must become visible. That is law. Each night before sleep, you hold in your hands the key to a new world. Use it wisely. Don't slip into unconscious worry. Enter instead the stillness of the answer. Feel it real. Rest in the state of already having. Let your final thought be one of fulfillment. And in time, without effort, your waking life will begin to carry the fragrance of the vision you nurtured in silence. You need not strive. You need not seek. You only need to be. Be in imagination what you long to see in the mirror. Be in feeling what you desire to touch. And the outer must take shape. Because it was never about the world. It was always about your assumption. Now take what you have heard and do not just hear it. Live it. Let tonight be the turning point. Let tonight be the moment you shift from wanting to knowing, from observing to creating. And when the world changes around you, and it will, you will not be surprised, for you will have already seen it, felt it, lived it within. And that changes everything.